Let's begin with the fact. We live in an age where illnesses in animals and their byproducts are increasing, not decreasing. The global meat and dairy industries face mounting problems. Animal disease, antibiotic resistance, industrial pollution, and the stress and suffering of creatures raised in unnatural conditions. While one may not always see it at the dinner table, the ripple effects are real. Now imagine what our pioneer health messengers saw more than a century ago, a world less industrialized, less globalized, with animals far healthier than today. And yet, they warned, it would not be long before animal food would become unsafe for God's people. Ellen White wrote, and I quote, "The light given me is that it will not be very long before we shall have to give up using any animal food. Even milk will have to be discarded. Disease is accumulating rapidly. The curse of God is upon the earth. The habits and practices of men have brought the earth into such a condition that some other food than animal food must be substituted for the human family." Pause and consider this. In 1899, she already saw disease accumulating. She declared that animal food must ultimately be abandoned by those following health reform. Now, more than 100 years later, how much stronger is that case? She also wrote, "The very animals whose flesh you eat are frequently so diseased that, if left alone, they would die of themselves. But while the breath of life is in them, they are killed and brought to market. You take directly into your system humors and poison of the worst kind, and yet you realize it not." Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, 404 to 405, 1870. That was in 1870, when farming was simpler, smaller, slower, and yet the messenger of God already saw disease and poison in the meat. Today, the scale is far greater. So what is health reform, and why is it such a pressing spiritual matter? Ellen White wrote, and I quote, "Shall we not bear a decided testimony against the indulgence of perverted appetite? The health of the body is to be regarded as essential for growth in grace and the acquirement of an even temper. If the stomach is not properly cared for, the formation of an upright moral character will be hindered." Testimonies for the Church 9, paragraph 159 to 160. Do you see the link? Our diet, our appetite, our health are tied directly to our moral and spiritual life. Eating flesh meat isn't merely about taste or culture. It affects the mind, the heart, and the soul. In Counsels on Diet and Foods, she wrote, "God gave our first parents the food He designed that the race should eat. The diet appointed man in the beginning did not include animal food. The original diet was plant-based. Flesh food came only after the flood, as a temporary concession. Now, as disease multiplies, the world must return to that Edenic ideal." She warned, "In a short time, it will not be safe to use anything that comes from the animal creation." Not safe, not advisable, but dangerous. This is not a casual suggestion. It is a solemn warning to God's end-time people. She also asked a piercing question. When will those who know the truth take their stand on the side of right principles for time and for eternity? Manuscript 133, 1902. Beloved, this is not simply about what we like to eat. It's about living in harmony with heaven's design. It's about health and readiness for eternity. Let's reflect. When Ellen White wrote these counsels, animal foods were far less corrupted. Yet she already said disease was accumulating rapidly. Now, look around. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria spreading in livestock. Viruses leaping from animals to humans. Industrial feedlots filled with suffering creatures. Pollution contaminating meat and milk, and human disease skyrocketing. Heart attacks, cancers, inflammation, all linked to flesh foods. She once wrote, "Flesh was never the best food, but its use is now doubly objectionable, since disease in animals is so rapidly increasing." Doubly objectionable, because the danger has multiplied. She foresaw this time, and she called for God's people to act before it was too late. Let not any of our ministers set an evil example in the eating of flesh meat. If they neglect to reform, they will lose spiritual power. Suff 10 paragraph 4. Our choices at the table affect our power in prayer, our clarity of mind, and our connection with heaven. She also said, the Lord would bring his people into a position where they will not touch or taste the flesh of dead animals. There is no safety in eating the flesh of dead animals, and in a short time the milk of cows will also be excluded from the diet of God's commandment-keeping people. Not even milk will remain safe. The counsel is clear. The time has come. So what do we do with this light? How do we respond in faith and balance? Step 1. Awaken to the issue. Realize your food choices have moral, health, and spiritual weight. Step 2. Educate yourself and your family. Learn where your food comes from. Study the realities of factory farming and nutrition. Step 3. Begin the transition. Ellen White said, "The need of the system can be better supplied and more vigorous health can be enjoyed without animal food." Ministry of Healing 316. Step 4. Replace wisely. She also wrote, "When the use of flesh food is discontinued, its place should be supplied with a variety of grains, nuts, vegetables, and fruits. None should be urged to make the change abruptly. Be patient, but persistent." Step 5. Commit to wholesome living. Don't just remove meat. Add life-giving foods, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, fruits, vegetables in abundance. Step 6. Be an example. Those who know the truth must stand on the side of right principles, for time and for eternity. Let's imagine one believer clings to meat out of habit or social pressure, and slowly their sensitivity to God's health message fades. Another believer decides to follow reform, even quietly, humbly, and becomes a living testimony of obedience, discipline, and divine health. Which one will you be? Remember Ellen White's appeal. When will those who know the truth take their stand on the side of right principles for time and for eternity? Time is short, and the light is clear. Now, let's answer a few common questions. Objection 1. But I need meat for strength. Ellen White wrote, "It is a mistake to suppose that muscular strength depends on the use of animal food. The grains, with fruits, nuts, and vegetables, contain all the nutritive properties necessary to make good blood. Modern science confirms it. A balanced plant-based diet meets all nutritional needs." Objection 2. But milk is harmless. Why stop that? Her answer was simple. Even milk will have to be discarded. As disease spreads among cattle, this counsel becomes painfully relevant. Objection 3. Are you saying eating meat is sin? The issue is not legalism, it's light. Ellen White explained, flesh meat is not necessary for health or strength. Its use excites the animal propensities, and when these are increased, the intellectual and moral powers are decreased. The diet affects the mind, and the mind affects the soul. God calls us higher, to purity, clarity, and strength. And here's the encouragement. You are not alone. Around the world, believers are awakening to health reform. Plant-based recipes, supportive communities, and modern resources make the journey easier than ever. Your stand for principle today will echo in eternity. In closing, yes, animals are becoming more and more diseased. Yes, Ellen White foresaw a time when animal food would have to be abandoned, and yes, that time is now. For those who know the truth and love the Lord, this is the moment to stand for health reform, to trust in God's original design, and to prepare for heaven. If you've been eating meat or dairy by default, ask yourself, is there a better way, a purer way, a way that honors my body as the temple of the Holy Spirit? Take that step today. Educate yourself. Choose life-giving foods. Be the living testimony of what God intended. Your body will thank you. Your mind will clear. Your spirit will strengthen, and eternity will reward you. Thank you for watching. If this message has spoken to your heart, please like and share to encourage others. And in the comments, tell us, what step will you take this week toward true health reform? Until next time, stay well, stay faithful, and walk in the light of God's pure diet. Maranatha.